Today's video is sponsored by Arena Club. More on them in a minute. Magneton was one of my favorite Pokemon in Generation 1. I just love this idea that you could stick together a bunch of magnets and somehow make an electric type Pokemon. And it makes me wonder, could Magneton beat the ultimate Gen 1 Pokemon challenge, Ultra Minimum Battles? In this setting, we're only going to take on the 8 gym leaders, the 4 Elite Four members, and the champion. That is it. Now, this is based on the fact that in Gen 1, there are so many glitches, including walk through walls and Glitch City, you could technically beat the entire game without fighting a single battle. Which led me to question, how many Pokemon can actually beat the entire game of Pokemon Red and Blue if they only took on these boss trainers? Now, on paper, Magneton is a bit of a mixed bag. It's only ranked 51st out of 151 Pokemon with a 395 base stat total. And while it does have a really good 120 base special and a pretty decent 95 base defense, its speed, attack, and HP aren't really anything to write home about. Add to that the fact that this Pokemon only learns electric and normal type damage dealing moves, we don't immediately have an answer for rock ground type Pokemon. However, we do have the advantage that we could technically do the gym leaders in any order in this challenge, and once we get to the league, outside of the champion's Rhydon, which doesn't know any ground type moves, we don't actually have to deal with that typing very often in this run. So today we're going to find out if it's possible to beat the game with a single Magneton on Ultra Minimum Battles, but I'm actually going to raise the stakes a little bit. Which brings me to today's sponsor, Arena Club. Arena Club is absolutely changing the hobby with their original slab packs and their zero-fee auctions. So whether you're chasing Grail Pokemon cards or you're flipping slabs, Arena Club makes it easy to add the cards that you want to your Pokemon card collection. Now, the first thing that drew me to Arena Club is that they're dealing in real cards. And for a person like me who's into the retro Pokemon games and the retro Pokemon cards, I wanted to make sure that I could find the exact cards that I wanted, something that I can't do by just going and buying a pack off of the shelf. I was pleased to find that basically any card that I put in, I could find tons of options to buy it at various price points in their marketplace. But even more exciting are Arena Club's original slab packs. By ripping a slab pack, you can get in as low as $25 and potentially get a card that's worth thousands. So I decided to go for this slab pack because it has a Pokemon that I would really want, this 2002 Gengar. We also get some really cool chase cards. And then when we look at the lineup, there's a lot of old school Pokemon mixed in here. So I think we have reasonable odds of getting a card that I really want. The thing that's really cool about the slab packs is that they tell you the exact odds of each card in the pack. Whether it's this Grail or the chase cards or any of the lineup, I know exactly the odds of getting the cards that I want. And with the slab safe program, I can guarantee that I'll get back at least 80% of the value of the pack, even if I pull something that I'm not really interested in adding to my collection. So here we are, it's time to reveal the card. Let's see what we actually get. Whoa, there we go. We get a nice old school Magneton coming from the 2002 Legendary Collection. So this is a card that I might actually want to keep, but I do want to see what Arena Club will give me as their instant offer. Because I used the slab safe program, I would be able to sell this card back at more than its market value. But for today, I think I'm just going to add this one to my collection, and I'm going to keep seeing what cards I can get as I continue my Arena Club journey. And you'll notice that even though I did not accept the instant offer, I have 24 hours to decide to accept it. So even if you decide not to make the jump right away, you still can buy these slab packs with some peace of mind. And in fact, since I've got 24 hours, I think this is a perfect chance to loop this into my challenge. Can we beat the entire game on Ultra Minimum Battles with this Magneton, or am I going to lose my brand new Pokemon card before the end of this one? Let's get into it and find out. But there's no need for any challenges to get your Pokemon cards. Get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase at arenaclub.com/RBY and use code RBY. And tell me in the comments what you get, because who knows, I might just use your slab pull in order to choose the next Pokemon challenge. So as we follow Professor Oak back to his lab, he's going to give us access to the Pokemon that I loved as a kid. Honestly, this was my favorite electric type Pokemon, even though it's far from the best. But we have our Magneton right here, and we're ready to get into this challenge. And first things first, we've got the Rival 1 fight, but this is scripted so that we're just necessarily going to lose, though we did actually manage to damage the Gengar. Still, we go down on that first attempt. Now, the reason why I script it so that we lose that first fight is because otherwise we would have a big inconsistency at the start of the game. Some Pokemon would absolutely never lose to the rival, whereas some Pokemon would always lose to the rival. And we need to make sure that there's no bias based on that first fight. And besides, if you were setting this up legitimately, what you would be doing is first picking up Bulbasaur, then setting up Brock through walls, and then going around and using the trainer fly glitch to get your actual challenge Pokemon. So just take that one for what you will, but now we have entered the challenge proper. We can see that we're now in Sabrina's gym, where all of the gym leaders have been placed in the different cells of this section. This is just so that we can efficiently access all of the gym leaders, but of course, if you want to see how to legitimately set up the glitches to go around the map, just check out the Johnstone video that's linked down below. Now, on top of that, in order to do this challenge properly, we have given ourselves access to a whole bunch of vitamins. This is going to allow us to get the strongest possible Magneton right from the start so that we can see how good this Pokemon actually is in its best possible form. And after consuming all of the vitamins, we can see that our Ultra Mag Magneton is coming in at level 5 with 23 HP, 14 attack, 18 defense, 15 speed, and 20 special. And we have a starting moveset of Tackle, Sonic Boom, and Thunder Shock. Sonic Boom does 20 fixed damage to any opponent, so it might just be that this move is enough to get through. However, we can also access this statue that is a PC in order to get access to a bunch of TMs that we might need as we go through this challenge. We're talking about TM45 for Thunder Wave, possibly TM50 for Substitute to survive against a dig from Giovanni's Dugtrio, Swift to be able to hit Pokemon when they're underground, for example, could be really useful. I also think that Reflect will be a very useful TM in this run. But honestly, the most important TM for this run may end up being Mimic, just because there are a lot of spots where I think it could help us, but we're going to put that one off as long as possible. Still, for now, we have to actually get into this challenge proper, and I think there's no better place to start than the Brock fight. We are coming in with Sonic Boom, which I believe should 2 or 3 shot all of Brock's Pokemon, provided that it hits. So let's just see if we can get the luck on the first attempt. So Brock attempt number 1, we're up against the Geodude. I go Sonic Boom, and it does over half. He goes for Defense Curl. That means I just 2-shot him with no damage taken. The little bit of damage I had there was actually just from using the HP ups before. We get to level 7 as the Onix comes out. It goes Bide, we go Sonic Boom, and that just guarantees that we get the victory. When we hit 2 Sonic Booms, he can do nothing. So we easily beat Brock on the first attempt, getting to level 8. It took 3 minutes 47 seconds to get through Brock, including my explanation at the beginning, and so far we have no issues progressing in this challenge. So now with Brock done, we have to decide how to route after this, and I think we can try Misty at least, given the fact that we do have Thunder Shock, which is a same type electric move. I'm just worried that we're not going to do enough damage, but maybe that 120 base special is enough that even here at level 8, we can find a way to get this one to go. So let's get into the Misty fight and find out. So Misty attempt number 1 on the Staryu. We can see Sonic Boom would be a 3-hit KO here, but let's see what we get with Thunder Shock. It's also looking like at least a 3-hitter. Still, we do get through that first Pokemon. We get to level 10 as the Starmie comes out. She goes X Defend turn 1, but yeah, we really didn't do that much with the Thunder Shock. I think we have to switch into Sonic Boom, and a critical hit Water Gun simply takes us down. However, we do have 2 options immediately at our disposal to try to make this fight a little more consistent. One, of course, is to learn TM25, which is Thunder. Now, this TM is available to us because it's on the overworld, and any TM on the overworld is just instantly available to you if you're using a walk through walls glitch. So we technically have our strongest move right off the bat. We can also learn TM45, which is, of course, Thunder Wave. I'm going to put this on over Tackle. We could get stronger normal type moves, and Thunder Wave gives us a possibility of actually outspeeding against a major threat like Misty's Starmie, so maybe this is all that we need to actually get through this efficiently. Let's check it out. So Misty attempt number 2, I'm going to try to go Thunder on the first Staryu, and this will be a 2-hit KO. We can just go Thunder Shock after that to knock that Pokemon out. Starmie's out next. It goes Bubble Beam, and that's simply too much when we're level 8. We really want to see Tackle in this situation. Next attempt, we do get tackled by the Staryu, and then she X defends, so we easily knock that one out, getting to level 10. Now, we survive Starmie's Bubble Beam and paralyze it. We hit Thunder, and it does about half. So we can see that if it's just fully paralyzed for a single turn, or she goes for that X defend, we have the potential to get a 2-hit KO here. The issue with this strategy, of course, is that Thunder is not perfectly accurate. It has a 30% chance to miss, but a couple attempts later, we do manage to paralyze the Starmie. It goes Tackle this time, and that gives us all that we needed to actually get through as we get to level 12. So it took 8 minutes, 5 seconds to get through the second gym. We did have to add on a couple TMs. It didn't count Thunder as a TM because Thunder is on our moveset, so I'll correct that after this battle, but it in the end took 4 resets on Misty to get that one to go. Still, the Thunder Wave strat is a good idea there because it will allow you to at least outspeed after that, giving you better ranges overall, I think, on actually getting through, especially considering that we have that 30% chance to miss. But just like that, we have gotten through 2 gyms with our Magneton, and we're ready to move on in the game. And next, I think there's no better option than to go to Lieutenant Surge, but I think we need a stronger normal type move here in order to deal with him. I'm going to try one time with Sonic Boom just to see what kind of ranges I get, but we may consider adding on something like Double Edge here in order to do more damage. Let's just see how this goes. So Lieutenant Surge attempt number 1, he has a level 21 Voltorb here, which we're obviously never going to outspeed, and it also knows Sonic Boom, so it could 3-hit KO us here, and because he has 51 HP, this is going to be a 3-hit KO against him with Sonic Boom, so I think we have to paralyze this Pokemon and then start going for Sonic Boom ourselves. When he X speeds, that actually cancels out the paralysis, but then he just goes Screech twice, so that's perfectly fine. Now with the Pikachu, I believe his Smart AI is going to cause him to only use Growl or Quick Attack. We can still see that Sonic Boom is going to be a 3-hit KO, but fortunately this move does not care about Growl since it's just dealing fixed damage, and on low health I think we can just use anything to knock him out. That brings us finally to the Raichu, which I'm not sure if it's actually going to attack us or not, given that it knows Growl. It does in fact go for Thunderbolt here, so he will try to damage our Pokemon, and we can see this would be a 4-hit KO with Sonic Boom, so we absolutely have to paralyze him and hope that he goes for Growl at least 1 or 2 times. We don't get it in this attempt, but we might still have a chance of actually getting this to go. A couple attempts later, we are back to the Raichu, but just on too low health to actually do anything, so unfortunately we lose. This is one spot where we really wish that a move like Light Screen was a TM in Gen 1. Unfortunately, only Reflect is a TM in this generation, so we're just kind of in bad shape in these fights. Still, there is one strategy that I think we should at least try here before we move to anything else, and that is the Rest strat. Because none of his moves are really going to do that much damage to us, it may be a situation where Rest is all that we need to actually get through this, because if we do get to the Raichu, we could just Rest to recover our HP and then knock him out after that. Now, Rest is an OP TM, so it goes in that broken TMs category for me, but who knows, this might be the only one of these moves that we actually need to progress. So in this case, I'm just looking for a good range on the first Voltorb, and then when I get to Pikachu, I'm hoping that it doesn't attack and lets me rest, because it's not going to do that much with its Quick Attack here, and like I've said before, Growl just really doesn't matter to us, so we can simply whittle this Pokemon down a little bit, and we could even rest just to recover HP before we even go to the final Raichu here. From there, we can just do anything to knock that Pokemon out, and Raichu comes out knowing only Thundershock and Thunderbolt. I'm pretty sure we can survive enough hits here. He does go X speed after we get the paralysis on him, so he is outspeeding here, and Thunderbolt did a lot of damage there. Still, he growls, so that allows us to heal up, and if he doesn't just crit us over and over again, we should have a chance of winning here, and finally we do. So that took 5 attempts on Surge, but after we added Rest, it was the first attempt that was all that we needed to actually get through him. Rest is the solution there. Remember, Rest is normally available in the SSN, so it would be a legit strat even in a normal run when you're coming up against Surgy Boy. Granted, you'd also be at a much higher level, so you probably wouldn't even need it in a normal run with a Magneton. Still, we get through in 14 minutes 28 seconds. We have added on that 1 OP broken TM, as well as 2 other TM moves, and we're up to 8 resets, but we are making progress. But now with that done, we have to decide how to route through this part. We could go to Koga, we could go to Erica, we could go to Sabrina. Technically, Giovanni's also on the table, but I don't think we're beating Giovanni at this point. So I think it's between those 3 gym leaders which one we take on next. In terms of level, of course, Erica has the lowest level Pokemon in this next section. Koga has the advantage of giving us a badge boost in speed, and Sabrina's probably the hardest of the 3, though who knows, maybe with a move like Double Edge we can take her down. Still, I'm going to try Erica first here, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to need to actually use a different TM move to get through her, but who knows? Let's just test this out and see if there's a strategy that works. So Erica attempt number 1, the whole issue here is the fact that of course she resists electric type moves, though we can heal up status thanks to the fact that we have Rest. Here I'm going to Thunder Wave against this Victory Bell and now start going into some Sonic Boom. Let's just see what Thunder does as well. Sonic Boom is clearly the play here on this Pokemon. She does manage to poison us, and she goes Razor Leaf, and the critical hit Razor Leaf just one-shots. So clearly that is not going to be enough to get us through this fight. So what else could we do to actually get this one to go? Well, for starters, I honestly think that Sonic Boom is about the most damage that we could do here. I don't see a situation where Double Edge at this level is actually going to do that much more. So what I think the best play is actually to learn Mimic here. Yet again, it is an OPTM, but it does give us one major advantage. We can mimic Sleep Powder, and once we have access to that move, we may simply be able to get through everything. Still, we're going to have to test this out a few times to see, so for now I'm going to learn Mimic over Thunder. We have Thunderbolt in the bag, so clearly we can just forget this move, or we can relearn it via level up later on. So Thunder is gone, Mimic is here. Let's see what this does to the Erica fight. But the whole problem here is that we're just slower than her Pokemon, so no matter how much we try to set up, it just simply doesn't work. So it seems that we need to take a different routing if we want to progress in the game. So for the sake of argument, let's just see how the Koga fight goes with this Pokemon. Sonic Boom might just not do enough damage here, but there's only one way to find out, so let's see. Now, of course, if this were Gen 2, this would probably be one of the easier gym leaders because we would be immune to poison and resistant to normal type moves. But in Gen 1, Steel type did not exist, so Magneton just has to get through with what it currently has. We get hit by Smog turn 1, so I think the best play is to go Thunder Wave on the Coughing. That will lower its speed significantly. Then we can go for the Sonic Booms here, and this is going to be a 5-hit KO on this Pokemon. Once we get hit by a couple damage dealing moves and poisoned, I will go ahead and just go to sleep in order to recover some HP. Now, it is using accuracy strats, you know, true to Koga style here, but we do ultimately manage to knock that Pokemon out. That brings out the Muck, where the best play I think is to go for Mimic, trying to mimic Minimize. Unfortunately, because our accuracy is dropped so much, we're just missing Mimic over and over again, and that probably means that this attempt is done. So what we really need is to not get a bunch of smoke screens from that first Coughing if we're actually going to have a legit chance of getting through this one. And of course, if it uses Sludge, we're basically just dead. A couple attempts later though, we get through the Coughing with no accuracy drops, so we're on to Muck, and it immediately goes Sludge. We wanted anything other than that move, and we probably can get through there, so we're just gonna have to test this one out a few more times. Still, we are at least in a speed tie with the first Coughing, and So a lot of the time we're able to paralyze this Pokemon turn 1 and then just start attacking from turn 2 onward. So for the most part, we do actually get through the first coughing to the Muck. It's just a question of how many accuracy drops we get. Next attempt, we're through to Muck with 1 accuracy drop. It misses Disable turn 1 and then goes Minimize turn 2, but that allows us to learn Minimize as well. And I'm going to take advantage of this move. Unfortunately, he immediately hits with a Sludge after that, so nothing we could do, but that is probably the strategy, to just go Minimize strats here after using Mimic. It's notable that this is the only spot in the run where we're ever going to be able to go for an evasion strat, because the double team TM is not provided here. Still, after a ton of attempts, it's pretty clear that that fight isn't working out for us. So the question is there somewhere else that we can go at this point in the run? For example, we can try Blaine on the basis that he likes to use full health super potions, and we can use the move Agility to outspeed all of his Pokemon. Still, we're just too fragile to be able to get through at this current level. And I tried the other available gym leaders and saw more of the same, so I actually think this is a spot where it makes sense to start going for some rare candies. So the only real question is, does Thunderbolt somehow allow us to deal enough damage that we could get through with that move instead? I'm going to test it out one time, but I'm honestly not super confident in this strategy. Still, I'll throw it on Oversonic Boom one time just to test it out. So back with Thunderbolt, we are doing more than 20 damage here with this move against the coughing, and Thunderbolt is technically 100% accurate. The problem is that we're running out of PP really quick when we just start missing everything. Still, I think this is the best shot that we've got, so I'm just going to take it for now and see if I can finally get through against Koga. At this point, that does turn the coughing into a 4-hit KO rather than the 5-hit KO though, and now Muck, when it goes Poison Gas, gives me the chance to set up the Minimize here. And I'm going to set up all of the Minimize, just hoping not to get hit. Unfortunately, we couldn't survive that time. So as bad as it feels, I actually think we need to learn Reflect over Thunder Wave. I don't think we can forget any of our other moves for future battles. So I'm going to add Reflect here. That will effectively cut the power of these physical moves in half, and that might be what we actually need to get through. So I'm going to set up Reflect turn 1. Remember that in Gen 1, Reflect lasts the entire battle. And with that, we can now see that we're not taking nearly as much damage from this coughing. Even when it goes Sludge, it's not like it's one-shotting us anymore. It does give it a chance to set up some smoke screens on us, but ultimately we can take that Pokemon down. Still, on less than half health, we're not going to survive a Sludge from Muck. Muck is attacking completely randomly, so this is just going to be a matter of resets, I think. Next attempt, we're back to Muck, and we start to set up our Minimize right here. We did get poisoned by a Poison Gas, and Muck is using a whole bunch of Minimize itself. So for now, I'm not going to worry about what it's doing. I'm just going to try to get set up. We just barely survive against a Sludge. So now we just need to actually be able to knock a Pokemon out. The problem is that the Muck has set up all of the evasion itself. It hits Sludge before we can hit a single Thunderbolt. And even when we do, the critical hit only does about a quarter, so we're not going to be able to get through on this one from the looks of it. So at this point, I think there's nothing else to do but to use some rare candies so that we deal more damage. I'm going to go up to level 18 using 3 of my rare candies right there just to see if that's enough to get us through. The first thing that changes from using some rare candies is we're guaranteed to outspeed against the coughing, and it's also now just a 3-hit KO. Against Muck, I'm actually going to use some Thunderbolts first to try to get its HP down before finally going into the Mimic to try to steal Minimize. It gets a critical hit Sludge this time, so we simply go down, but that might be the best strategy for getting through here. Still at level 18, this doesn't quite seem to be going, so I'm going to add 2 more of the 12 rare candies that are normally available in a full game solo challenge. We're going to get up to level 20 now and just see if that makes any difference at all. Now, before at level 18, there was a small chance for this coughing to survive 3 hits, but at level 20, it's guaranteed to be a 3-hit KO no matter what happens. So that is improving the range here just a little bit. However, we're still a couple points in speed slower than this Muck, and that could be the problem. We might need to reach a point where we actually outspeed Muck. Still, we're getting decent damage on it this time, So I'm going to try to go for the Mimic strat here in order to Mimic Minimize. Unfortunately, it's disabled Rest, so I can't use the move. We finally snap out of our disability and it disables Minimize instead, but that finally allows me to heal up on this one. Now I'll just finish my Minimize setup so that we have all of the evasion that we possibly can get, and now it's just hoping that Thunderbolt will actually hit. We do actually manage to get through Muck this time, and we level up just in time to learn Sonic Boom. I'm going to forget Reflect to learn Sonic Boom at this point. Reflect is a TM that's available in Celadon Department Store, so technically you can get it an infinite number of times, so I can actually relearn that move in a later battle if I need to. Right now I need damage dealing PP. So with Sonic Boom now on the moveset, I'm going to Thunderbolt once on Coughing and then go into Sonic Boom in order to knock this one out. And that brings us to the final Pokemon, Wheezing. And here we're just hoping for either a self-destruct miss or enough turns. We get the self-destruct miss. How could we lose? We have 69 HP at level 22. So just like that, Ultra Mag does get through. It took 17 attempts on Koga though, and we're up to 40 minutes 9 seconds to get through that one. Now, once I actually got the luck to set up the Minimize on the Muck, it really wasn't that bad, and once we got to level 20, we got through within just a handful of attempts. Still, it's pretty clear that Magneton is starting to run into some issues in this challenge. However, now that we've gotten through Koga, thanks to the Mimic into Minimize strats, we should actually have a better chance against a lot of trainers because we have a badge boost in speed. What that really means is that we're going to outspeed now against, I believe, Erica's first Victory Bell, and that means we could, in theory at least, get the setup that we need to actually do that Sleep Powder strat before it gets the chance to knock me out. Let's get into this and find out. So Erica attempt number 1, I'm going to go immediately for Mimic and Sleep Powder. It goes Razor Leaf, which gets a critical hit but only does about half. Unfortunately, we missed our Sleep Powder and it hit Sleep Powder on us. So now we're stuck in Wrap as it just uses Sleep Powder and there's nothing we can do. We do eventually wake up only to get wrapped again when we miss Sleep Powder, so we're down to 3 HP remaining. I think we have to rest and recover HP here. Fortunately, we're not taking that much damage from Wrap, so even though we're missing Sleep Powder an awful lot in this fight, we will get a chance at least to get back at the Victory Bell. It's going to be a 5-hit KO with Sonic Boom, but I think this is our best strategy. Still, when it wakes up and we don't manage to get it back to sleep, Razor Leaf just 2-shots us from there. Let's try this one again. This time we get Victory Bell to sleep early on in the fight, so we're simply able to go into our Sonic Booms, and when it wakes up, I just put it back to sleep this time, so even if Sonic Boom misses here and there, it's not really that big of a deal, and then Thunderbolt will just finish it off. This is our first attempt now at the Tangela, where I'm just going to go for the Sleep Powder. Of course, it knows only Bind and Constrict. I just don't want to take a speed drop here, but I'm going to use this Pokemon to just use some Thunderbolts on as well, since I think it's going to do enough damage. In fact, it's going to be a 4-hit KO here, but that's perfectly fine with Tangela asleep. That brings out Vileplume as the last Pokemon. We put it to sleep, and now we can go into Sonic Boom and get a 4-hit KO, so that's what I'm going to go for right here. Oh, it's actually a 5-hitter, and she Super Potions at the end. Still, we get Vileplume back to sleep. Thunderbolt is doing a very similar amount of damage, but we managed to get through on this attempt. So coming back after beating Koga, it only took 2 attempts to get through Erica here, and now we get a level up. Normally we'd learn Thundershock here. Obviously we don't need that move, but 43 minutes 31 seconds, we have gotten through another gym. That's officially 5 gym badges done. So now the question is, do we go Blaine or do we go Sabrina? Sabrina, of course, has a lot of really strong special moves, whereas Blaine's Pokemon are mostly going to be rocking the physical moves here. Honestly, either way could be fine, but I'm going to try Blaine one time because he will give us a badge boost in special if we beat him, and that could be what we need to actually progress in this run. So Blaine attempt number 1, I think the only play here is to go for Mimic into Agility. I want to make sure that I'm faster than everything. And once I am, now I can go into Thunderbolt on the Growlithe. It looks to be a 3-hit KO. And really, that's all I think we need on that one. Now for Ponyta, I'm going to go for Thunderbolt, but on half health, I think this is a decent enough spot to go for Rest as well. He Super Potions. Stomp didn't do that much, and then he Super Potions again on full health. Fire Spin is a little bit annoying, but it's not going to do that much damage to us. We even paralyzed the Ponyta. I'm just going to take another opportunity to heal here. Growl means nothing to us, though Tail Whip is a little bit scarier. We do manage to get through that Pokemon. Rapidash is out next. I'm going Thunderbolt. It goes Tail Whip. Thunderbolt again as it goes into the Fire Spin, and we just barely miss getting a 3-hit KO on this Pokemon. Once we take so much damage from the Fire Spin, though, I think we have to heal up here, and Stomp is going to do massive damage because of the Tail Whip. Still, we like the Growl here, as he just goes for a couple of Super Potions on this Pokemon. We get another Tail Whip, though, so I'm pretty sure, even as we knock out the Rapidash, if we get Takedown from the Arcanine, we're just going to be dead. Still, we get to level 27 here as we come in. A critical hit turn 1 on Arcanine does really good damage and paralyzes it. He Super Potions and Super Potions again, so he's not going to use any more Super Potions on this one, but we're out of PP in our Thunderbolts, and he did massive damage with that Fire Blast. We get him to be fully paralyzed for a couple turns while we rest, though, and he's fully paralyzed again, but when he finally does go for the takedown, it's a 1-hit KO, and we lose. So this one's incredibly close, but there might actually be a situation where we want a different strategy here. I'm going to test this just a couple more times to see. Now, we level up right on Rapidash, but what I'm actually hoping is for it to use a lot of Tail Whips and Growls against me. The logic is pretty simple. If he uses those, we're going to get badge boosts in speed, and with enough speed, we might actually be able to go for a Fire Spin strat here. Sure enough, he Growls and Tail Whips us enough times that we can actually outspeed now, and so while we take a lot of damage from this Fire Spin that's hitting us currently, we can knock Rapidash out. That brings us to Arcanine, where if we can actually hit the Fire Spin, we would be able to get through there. Unfortunately, we leveled up right before Arcanine again, so our low level is actually working against us here by preventing us from setting up all the badge boosts that we would need to actually pull this strategy off. So with Blaine not working, I think the next best play is to go ahead and try our hand at Sabrina. So Sabrina attempt number 1, Psychic does massive damage, but I'm going to take this opportunity to mimic Recover here. Unfortunately, it fails. So let's just see how much damage we actually do to Sabrina here. Psychic does massive damage to us. A crit from Kadabra is just a 1-hit KO. This time, however, she just goes Recover turn 1 and turn 2, but we can see that Thunderbolt is not doing very much here. And at this point, Sonic Boom's probably just not strong enough to really do anything either, so I think we need another moveset change. I'm going to go for Double Edge over Sonic Boom just to see how much damage this move does to the Kadabra. And Double Edge does about half, so if we can just manage to get something like Disable from the Kadabra, we might be able to 2-hit KO it. It actually turns out to be a 3-hitter as she Hyper Potions, and we knock ourselves out with recoil damage. So unfortunately, it looks like Sabrina is not working either, which means I think the only thing left to do is to go for more rare candies. I'm going to go up to level 28 this time, which is the next damage rounding threshold. But my whole logic here is this. I think that once we manage to get through the 8 gym leaders, we're actually not going to be that bad against Lorelei. Bruno is Bruno, and then we may just be able to get through Agatha somehow, and Lance, we'll just have to see, but he's not as scary in Pokemon Red and Blue as he is in Pokemon Yellow, so maybe we can get through. For now, though, I think this is the best strategy to progress. So back here against the Growlithe, I am once again going to mimic Agility so that I outspeed everything, since I think that is the best strategy here. Then we'll just use Thunderbolts to take this Pokemon down. Once we get on low health, of course, we'll use Rest in order to recover some HP, as he just uses a couple of Super Potions anyway. Still, it's not great taking that Pokemon down. We're going to need a little bit of luck from here on out, it looks like, especially with the number of defense drops that we've already taken. We're going to be in the range to take a lot of damage when Pokemon go for things like Takedown and Stomp here. Still, we do manage to 2-shot there against the Ponyta, against Rapidash. It looks like it's going to be a 3-hitter. We even paralyze it, so we'll just rest once we get hit by a stomp here. We get a nice critical hit after that, and that allows us to knock that Pokemon out. We get a level up and learn Supersonic, but I'm going to skip this move. I just don't think it's going to give us enough chances. So let's see if we can get through Arcanine. This time it goes Ember, and we paralyze it turn 1 with the Thunderbolt, but then it gets the takedown on us and we lose. So honestly, we probably want the first couple Pokemon to just attack against us and not give us a bunch of defense drops, because the defense drops at the end are what causing a lot of problems for us. We get 1 Leer this time from the first Growlithe, and then a Growl from the Ponyta's not as big a deal. Rapidash does Tail Whip us though. We critical hit it after that to knock it out. Once again, we could learn Supersonic, but we'll skip the move. Once again, we paralyze Arcanine and it goes for Roar this time. Then Fire Blast isn't quite as scary, but Ember knocks me out. I was really hoping to get at least 1 turn of it being fully paralyzed to knock it out, but this is starting to actually look like a winnable fight. So back to Arcanine on the next attempt. We just get takedown and lose. So we really just need better luck than this. Takedown is only a 1 in 4 chance. Another attempt later, we are back to Arcanine again. So we're getting to the final Pokemon really consistently now. It goes Roar turn 1, Roar turn 2. He gets paralyzed turn 3. We survive a takedown this time. And finally, it took a few attempts there at this level, but 4 attempts at level 28, 29 was enough to actually get through Blaine. It took 56 minutes, 46 seconds to get through that though. We can see our score is absolutely tanking. I'm not sure. We've used so many rare candies at this point. This run might actually be impossible. I might be selling my Pokemon card at the end of this. Still, we're not going to know until we actually manage to get through all these gym leaders. So I think now we have to go back and fight against Sabrina. We're just not going to be in good shape against Giovanni, I don't think. So I think this is the only way to go. Let's get into this and see if it can work out. So at level 30, this is Sabrina attempt number 1. We get hit by Psychic, but it does less than half now. And Double Edge is doing decent enough damage. I'm going to rest at this point though, because we just took too much damage from the Kadabra, and a critical hit Psychic is enough to take us down with Recoil when we hit the Double Edge. So we're going to need a little bit better luck than that, but let's see if we can actually manage to get it. And this time, of course, she has to disable Double Edge right when we would have knocked out the Kadabra, and we get a special drop from Psychic, so we go down again. Still, disable's only like 55% accurate, so I think we have to try this a few more times. This time we get a nice critical hit that just allows us to one-shot there, however. And now I'm going to mimic the move Light Screen from this Mr. Mime, and I'm going to set it up immediately. Now it's gone Barrier and Light Screen against us, so I think the only thing that we can really do is go for the Thunderbolts here. We're just hoping to knock this Pokemon out. Sure enough, we do. That brings out the Venomoth, where I'm just going to stick with the Thunderbolts. It's going for things like Poison Powder and Stun Spore, which are perfectly fine by me. And that brings us to the Alakazam. Now, because we have set up already with the Light Screen, we should take less damage provided that it doesn't manage to get a critical hit. The crit chance of Alakazam is huge though, and it knows Recover, so this could be a problem. Still, we managed to get a critical hit while we're down to 11 HP, so we beat Sabrina on just a couple attempts after we come back here. So 59 minutes, 44 seconds to get through that gym. 64 resets so far. We've added on 2 OP broken TMs and 6 other TM moves throughout this run, but we're through to the final gym leader technically in Giovanni. The question is just, can we actually get through him, or is this going to be the first run that I've done where I actually skip a gym leader to just go to the Elite Four? I think we have to at least try Giovanni once, so I'm going to come in and just see if I can manage a victory, but I'm not feeling very confident about this one. The first issue is that we can only use Double Edge here against the Rhyhorn, and it does laughably little damage. Still, Rhyhorn is not really doing that much back against us, so who knows, maybe we can find a way through this one, especially if it gives us badge boosts and lets us rest up HP here. The problem, of course, is that Stomp is starting to do more and more to us as it uses the tail whips. So unfortunately, we go down on the first attempt. Now, there is a strategy that could potentially work, but we're going to need a little bit of luck here, I think. What I'm going to do is mimic the move Horn Drill. That allows us to one-shot that Pokemon. The problem is that now we have to deal with the Dugtrio, which I believe will only use Dig here. Sure enough, it does, and we get completely destroyed by the Dugtrio when it comes back above ground. So the only possible way that we get through here would be if we get enough badge boosts from this first Rhyhorn that we're able to actually outspeed the Dugtrio, I think. Now, this Pokemon is 50% to not even damage us on any given turn, and it does know Tail Whip, which is a badge boost glitch move, but we need it not to go for a bunch of attacks against us. We really need it to just get obsessed with using Tail Whip. Now, the real question, though, is how much speed do we actually need against that Dugtrio to be fast enough that we could potentially land Horn Drill? And it has 112 speed, so basically, if we can get enough badge boosts to have 113 speed or more, there is a possibility of going for Horn Drill strats in this fight. That's appearing to take at least 3 Tail Whips from the Rhyhorn actually hitting for us to be able to get that. Tail Whip does have a 25% chance to miss, but once we get enough Tail Whips, now I'm going to Horn Drill against the Rhyhorn, and let's see if we can get it against Dugtrio. We do. That brings out the Nidoqueen, which is neutrally affected by Double Edge. Still, Horn Drill might be the best play here. We really don't want to get body slammed too many times because it will do massive damage in that case, and we simply go down. So at this point, honestly, I think the only other thing to do is to drop our last 4 rare candies. We're only getting to level 36 here, but if this doesn't work, we're possibly just going to have to give up on the run or try to do the league without beating Giovanni. Now, of course, the extra levels are causing us to take less damage from the Rhyhorn, as well as needing less badge boosts to actually outspeed against that Dugtrio. We only need 2 Tail Whips here, which we do in fact get, but at this point I actually think the best play is to try to legitimately knock out the Rhyhorn, because what we can do now is when we outspeed Dugtrio, we can mimic Dig, and when he uses Dig, we'll simply use Dig back and knock him out after that. Now we have a super effective move against the Nidoqueen and the Nidoking. We get a 2-hit KO on Nidoqueen there. I'm going to go rest here on Nidoking. We really don't want to see Thrash, but even Horn Attack did a lot of damage. So now I'm going to Dig, he hits Poison Sting, and we don't quite get the 2-hit KO. It was a 3-hitter there. That might have been a range. That was really, really close. Still, we managed to get back to Nidoqueen on the next attempt. She body slams us, which does massive damage. So I'm going to have to rest right there. We're hoping for Poison Sting, Scratch, etc. We get another Tail Whip here. That's a badge boost for us. That could actually help things. We get to level 37 again as Nidoking comes out though. So that eliminates any badge boosts, but we get a nice critical hit Dig. So we do get the 2-hit KO. That brings us to the final Rhydon, but Fissure and Horn Drill cannot affect us. So I'm going to go for Dig, but this is clearly going to take a lot of hits to actually take this one down. We don't get any crits here. We only have 5 PP left in Double Edge. And with Rhydon's massive defense, this might not work out. It's here with just a little bit of HP remaining. However, it's only going to use Fissure because we are an electric type Pokemon. So all we have to do is use up the rest of our PP, and I think we can struggle this one down. Remember that the AI in Gen 1 does not have PP, so they can't actually run out of the move Fissure here, and that means he's just going to use it infinitely, and once we get to struggle, we knock out the Rhydon. So we've won. We get to level 38. We can learn the move Thunder Wave here. I'm not sure if it's worth having Thunder Wave for the end game though or not. Double Edge is basically our strongest physical move, and Thunderbolts are effectively our strongest same type move. So I think we have to skip Thunder Wave, and we're ready to go to the league, but this has not been pretty. 73 resets to get through 8 gyms. We're averaging, 9 resets per gym at this point. 6 TMs, 2 broken TMs, but we have managed to get through to the league, and now we have to see if we can find a way to get through the last 5 trainers in the game. The main issue here, of course, is just that our TM learn set is so incredibly narrow. I'm just going to take out some more Reflect TMs since technically they're available an infinite number of times, and I will have some Hyper Beam TMs too, since technically they're purchasable by just, gambling a lot at the Rocket Game Corner. So we'll see if this is enough, but I'm going to go into Lorelei as I am. We have no rare candies left in the bag, so there's no option to gain additional levels. Is level 38 with Max DVs and a bunch of vitamins enough for Magneton to get through Lorelei? Let's find out. So Lorelei attempt number 1, we're going to go for Thunderbolt on the Dugong, a critical hit one-shots there. Now Thunderbolt on Cloyster also gets the one-hitter. Slowbro, I'm just going to mimic Amnesia here so that I can just take advantage of this move to guarantee that I one-shot everything after this. Slowbro even tries to go Growl, good strategy clearly, but we one-shot that Pokemon. Jinx, I'm just going to stick with Thunderbolt after the Amnesia, and Lapras gets completely destroyed. So at least the first of the Elite Four members, no problem as we get to level 40. But now we have to take on Bruno with his 2 Onix, and honestly, I'm just not sure. Let's see how this actually goes. So Bruno attempt number 1 against the Onix. There's really nothing to do here other than to just go double edge and hope that we hit enough times to knock this Pokemon out. Now we can try mimicking Harden to get a bunch of badge boosts in attack, and he's just using Rage, which isn't going to do much damage to us. So I've gotten all of the boosts to my attack stat by using Harden 6 times. The problem is that we might not be doing enough damage with Double Edge to actually get through here. We actually do manage to get through the first Onix, but that was not pretty. Now Thunderbolt takes out Hitmonchan. Thunderbolt will also take down Hitmonlee, but we've reached the second Onix and we really just don't have enough PP left in Double Edge to actually get through this one, I think. And now that it's using Rage against me, it's basically guaranteed that it's just gonna use that move over and over again, and we're gonna build up its Rage, so even if we get to struggle, I'm pretty sure we just lose here. Now, there is a strategy that will get us through this fight, but it's not pretty. I'm not super excited for it, but I think we may just have to go for it at the end of this one. Right now, I'm just using up my remaining PP in Rest, and we will go for Struggle, but I just don't think it's going to deal enough damage to actually take down this Onix. So we have used up all of our PP, and Struggle's doing like 1 damage per hit without a crit. So unless we're going to get a ton of critical hits here, we're probably just going to lose, especially since we're building up his Rage. We're not going to have enough HP left to actually take down the Machamp. And sure enough, we lose to Bruno. So what is the strategy for actually getting through here that I really don't want to use, but I think I have to? Toxic. Because of the fact that those Onix take so many turns, I'm pretty sure we just replace Double Edge with Toxic and we get through at this point. We're to the point of using 3 generic OPTMs though, so our score is absolutely abysmal. But let's see if this now makes the Bruno fight at least really trivial. Of course, in this case, we just set up Toxic on Onix. I will still Mimic here in order to set up Harden, because I think Thunderbolt will get us through everything else, and we just don't want to take too much physical damage. And while yes, we could try to go for something like Ice Punch from the Hitmonchan, I honestly just don't think we need to. I think that we're perfectly fine with Thunderbolt here. Sure enough, it goes down. Hitmonlee also gets wrecked. That brings us to the second Onix, where we'll just go Toxic. I'm going to finish setting up all of my Hardens here so that we don't have anything to worry about against the final Machamp short of a critical hit. And I'll just get the heal on as well as Machamp comes out. Submission did decent damage, but not enough. He goes for Fissure, but he's too slow, and 2 Thunderbolts knocks Machamp out. So it's not pretty. You have to go Toxic strats, but it is possible to beat Bruno on Ultra Minimum battles with a Magneton. Still, I'm now worried that we're going to end up with like a super generic moveset after Agatha. We might even throw on like Substitute and just end up in a situation where it's Substitute, Toxic, Mimic, Rest, like my worst nightmare. But hey, we're at least progressing for now without Double Team on minimum battles. Obviously, if this strategy in the end doesn't work, we're just going to have to give up because Double Team is not an option in this challenge. For now, though, we've made it to Agatha. Let's see how she goes. So Agatha attempt number 1, I'm going to mimic the move Hypnosis here. Then I'm going to put Pokemon to sleep so that I can actually use Rest to heal. And once I wake up, now I will go Thunderbolts to 2-shot against this Golbat. Out comes the Gengar. We're going to try to put this one to sleep. Obviously, Gengar has a lot of specials, so we're going to need a lot of hits to knock this one out here. We do get a 3-hitter there, though. Haunter comes out next, but she immediately swaps to Arbok, which is just a 2-hit KO. She'll bring out Haunter next as we get to level 43, and this one is a simple 2-hitter. So we've made it to the final Gengar on the first attempt. She goes Toxic on us, and then Nightshade takes us down. If we could have put it to sleep, we would have been able to set up the Rest in order to recover from Toxic, though. So I think this one might work. Let's try this again. Now, of course, the other possible strategy here is to go for Nightshade instead of Hypnosis. The logic being that it would give us another damage dealing move, but honestly, I think we have enough PP in Thunderbolt to get this one done. Let's find out though. The issue here, of course, is that she has Super Potions, and that kind of affects things because it means that when we get her Pokemon on low health, there's at least a chance that she will heal them up, and in that case, we absolutely do not have enough PP to get through this fight. So the only options are either to replace Toxic with a different damage dealing move, or to mimic that Nightshade, because that's the only way we're going to deal enough damage here once we run out of Thunderbolt PP. Now, a lot of people have said I should also put PP ups in here. Technically, you're right, but we're going to keep this harder by doing it this way. All right, so now that we know that we probably need another damage dealing move, I'm going to just go all in on attack on this first Gengar. Once we knock it out, we'll try to rest here on Golbat as it goes Haze. That loses all of our normal badge boosts, but we should now be able to just 2-shot this Pokemon, assuming she doesn't go for a Super Potion. And now Haunter is where I'm actually going to try to mimic the Nightshade. Unfortunately, it Nightshades twice and we simply get knocked out after a misclick, but if we can get Nightshade there, we'll at least have another damage dealing move. A few attempts later, we even get through the first Gengar on full health, and that brings us to the Haunter on really good HP. Still, it puts us to sleep, and if it just goes Nightshade a couple times, we're going to get wrecked. And sure enough, that is the case. Agatha is totally trolling us here, but the big issue is that we just don't have enough speed for this part of the game. Once again, back to the Haunter though, and we wake up immediately from Hypnosis, but we are confused at this point, which is causing a lot of issues. Finally, I get access to Nightshade though, only to then get wrecked yet again by it hitting the move. So honestly, at this point, I think the only thing that we can do is go for Substitute, and realistically, we're setting that up over Toxic here. The logic being, of course, that we need a move that will allow us to avoid getting KO'd and avoid some of the status. It won't protect us from sleep, but it will protect us from confusion and Toxic, and allow us to survive like one random hit. So I think this is our best play. So now we can set up Substitute here, and it will at least protect us from one hit while we're asleep. Unfortunately, we just don't manage to get the luck that we need to get through there. This time we do manage to knock out the Haunter and the first Gengar though, so we're back to the Arbok. Thunderbolt does decent damage. It goes Glare to paralyze us. That's the other status that can't be blocked by a Substitute in Gen 1 Game Boy games. Sleep and Paralysis can hit through a Substitute, but that does bring us to the final Gengar with no way that it can put us to sleep or poison us or confuse us. We get Paralysis with Thunderbolt, and this looks to be a 4-hit KO, assuming she doesn't Super Potion. We even get a crit. So finally, it took an hour 31 minutes, but we do get through Agatha, but our score has absolutely tanked. We've used 4 broken OP TMs, 6 normal TMs, and we're up to 88 resets. Our score is now 45.2. Oh, this is the worst run that we've done like this so far on this setting. Worse than when I did it with Drowsy, worse than when we did it with Electabuzz. And it comes down to the fact that Electabuzz could learn things like Psychic that actually gave it some coverage. Magneton just doesn't get coverage, so normally it needs a ton of levels to take advantage of its defense and special to actually get through the game. But for now, we have managed to progress to Lance, so hopefully Lance and the champion are just smooth sailing. Let's find out. So Lance attempt number 1, I'm going to mimic a move right here on this first Gyarados. I'm going to learn the move Dragon Rage. That should help me a little bit later on in the run. Then we can just one-shot that Pokemon. Dragonair number 1 comes out. I'm going to set up a substitute right here, expecting something like that Hyper Beam. And then let's just see what we do with the Thunderbolt. Now, interestingly, when you have a substitute and they break it with Hyper Beam, they don't have to recharge the next turn. And of course, we have to deal with the fact that Lance uses Hyper Potions, which means we take tons and tons of damage here. We're going to have to rest on the second Dragonair as it goes for a Hyper Beam on us. And while it does recharge, Slam the next turn simply knocks us out. It's worth noting we did get 1 Leer there though, so we were taking more damage than we normally would from those Dragonairs. Let's try this one again, because here honestly the better strategy might be to just go Thunderbolt on the first Gyarados. And then we could even mimic Agility here to get badge boosts against these Dragonairs, which means that without critical hits, they wouldn't do as much damage to us. Then we can rest. Now, granted, they got the crit on us, so we have to immediately go back into rest after that. We will survive 3 Dragon Rages, but we can see just how incredibly close this is. We need a lot of agilities or hyper beams here. Now we can set up a substitute though and go into Thunderbolt, which is going to do a lot more damage with the badge boosts. So we actually get through the first Dragonair. Our substitute is broken by the second Dragonair's Dragon Rage, so we're going to have to rest here and then reset up substitute. We get a Slam, but we take the damage just fine with our substitute. He Hyper Potions on this one though, and we're stuck hoping that we're doing enough damage with the Thunderbolts to get through. We do in fact manage to knock out this Dragonair, and because of agility, we're faster than Aerodactyl, so we just get the 1-hit KO right there. Now the problem is all about this Dragonite. It knows Hyper Beam and Slam, otherwise Agility and Barrier. So I think we have to rest here, hoping that it goes like Agility, Barrier, Slam Miss is pretty nice. Once it goes for Hyper Beam, I'm just going to see the range with Thunderbolt, and we're on so low PP that without a crit, I think we lose. And sure enough, we got him all the way down, but he heals with a Hyper Potion, so we're probably not getting through on this one. Hyper Beam from Dragonite is just way too strong. So we might need to save 1 agility for right there on Dragonite in order to get 1 additional badge boost. It's also worth noting we're in a speed tie currently with the first Gyarados. So if we don't outspeed here, we can actually lose pretty easily just by getting like a Hyper Beam turn 1 that deals too much damage for us to survive. So once again, we make it to the Dragonite at level 45, where I'm going to set up my substitute. He misses a Slam. We go for 1 Thunderbolt there. Now I need to set up my last agility. He goes for Hyper Beam, and we just have to hope to do enough damage. He misses Slam, and we get the range this time with 1 badge boost to actually beat Lance. So it took a few attempts, but we were ultimately able to get it to go. That is insanely close though. Like really, really, really close with this Magneton. Still, we get the job done, so I guess we can go into the champion, but we might fail right here. This might be the end of the run because I'm struggling to think what we're actually going to be able to do. We're going to have to mimic something from Alakazam for the Rhydon, I think. Or maybe we can go Horn Drill with the Rhydon, but then we're going to be in bad shape against a lot of the other Pokemon. I'm not sure if this works or not. This might just be the end of the line. We're already almost up to 100 resets, even though we're using a bunch of OP broken TMs. Like I said, double team strats are not on the table. We're also not going to go flash strats, even though I did program in HM5 into this. I just don't think that's the way we want to go. So yeah, let's see if this works or not. So champion attempt number 1, I'm going to go Thunderbolt on the Pidgeot. This is a 2-hit KO, but it goes for Sky Attack, so that's perfectly fine. Now we could level up and learn Swift, but I'm actually going to skip this move. That brings out Alakazam, and here I think we have to go for something like trying to mimic Psychic. Still, that just did not work out on the first attempt. Maybe substitute into Thunderbolt on the first Pidgeot is the way to go. It's worth noting that Pidgeot does not know agility here, so that is not a strategy that we can go for. Still, once we get the substitute up, that means we'll get at least 1 turn of survivability here against this Alakazam. So I'm going to try to mimic Psychic here. But once it hits Psychic, we're taking massive damage. And there's really not much we can do, but we do paralyze it this time and get another crit to knock it out. Wait just a second. I'm going to heal up here against the Rhydon with Rest. We get a Tail Whip and a Leer, but I'm going to set up a substitute just in case it does a damage dealing move. Now Psychic looks like it's going to do a 2-hitter here. Sure enough, we get through Gyarados. We can go Thunderbolts, and that is a 1-hit KO. Arcanine comes out where I'm going to stick with Thunderbolt, but Takedown did me in. I need to have a substitute there as well if I'm going to be able to get through this. So once again, in the next attempt, we take out the Pidgeot. And again, we have no rare candies, so we're stuck here at level 46 as we come into this. Here we'll once again mimic Psychic from the Alakazam because I think that's going to be the play even on the final Venusaur. And we get a 3-hitter there, so that's perfectly fine. Going to substitute again on the Rhydon and Rest. Fury Attack can do damage, but it's not going to do that much. Still, we don't want to take Fury Attack too many times. It's only a 1 in 4 chance that it goes for that move. I'll use Psychic once just to get Rhydon's health down a little bit before we rest a second time here. Once we wake up, with the special drop, we get a 2-hit KO this time. We'll still go for Thunderbolt on the Gyarados, getting the 1-hitter. Arcanine's out next. It goes Takedown and breaks our substitute, but we hit it with a Thunderbolt. Now it goes Leer, and Takedown does massive damage, but we do get through to the final Venusaur, and we are 1 point in speed slower than this Pokemon. It goes Growth turn 1. I go for Substitute. Now it takes in Sunlight, but we're going to be able to survive at least one Solar Beam here. Now Mega Drain, though, finishes me off. We really needed it to go Growth multiple times, and we really wanted a critical hit there. This one is made harder by the fact that we don't have an Exeggutor that we can simply mimic Hypnosis from. Usually I go up against like the Charizard team, in which case we would have that option, but here we're just stuck with these moves as they are. So a few attempts later, we are getting back towards the end of the team here. And one question, we leveled up right here on the Arcanine. If it goes Leer even once against us here, we should be able to outspeed against that final Venusaur. So I'm actually going to rest here, hoping that it manages to hit a Leer on me. I do have the substitute up, so I can at least survive a hit or two. So let's just waste turns for a minute. He goes full restore on the Arcanine here, but he just keeps missing with that Leer. It's a 25% chance to miss with the move, even though it's normally 100% accurate. And here he just keeps refusing to use Leer or missing, which is a bit of a problem for us. I don't believe Substitute stops Leer, so I don't think that's the issue, but who knows, maybe I'm wrong. Here we get a Razor Leaf from the Venusaur, but we get a nice special drop. If we can just survive, we do, and with the special drop, we were actually able to knock out the champion and get to level 48. So just like that, we have completed the game on ultra minimum battles with a Magneton. But how does this look compared to other Pokemon that we've done so far? This is the lowest score I've ever gotten. It's an hour, 46 minutes, and 32 seconds to complete the challenge, and our final score on my scoring system was 44.4. That was with 96 resets at the end, 6 TMs, and 4 OP broken TMs. Think about all the TMs that we learned here. We learned Substitute, we learned Mimic, we learned Rest, and we learned Toxic. All generic TMs that any Pokemon can learn, but I'm pretty sure that without those, Magneton just didn't stand a chance here. So how did Magneton do in the end? Technically, it completes the challenge, but that did not feel good to do it. Still, we have completed this, and as we look how it stacks up against other Pokemon on this challenge, like Jinx was at 81.4, Nidoking was at 67, but that was because it was using Mimic strats. But both of those Pokemon beat the game in like an hour 6 minutes, an hour 10 minutes. Magneton was an hour 46 minutes on this. Slower than Drowsy using all the sleep strats, technically faster than Electabuzz, but with a much lower score of only 44.4. So in the end, I decided that a score around 44 was simply too low to count this Pokemon as having completed the challenge, so I took advantage of the instant offer from Arena Club to flip that Magneton card back to them. But that's perfectly fine. We may come back and do another run with a Magneton and get it some redemption, and if I do, the marketplace is waiting right up there for me to go back and buy a new Magneton card. And in fact, I found this 97 Magneton in Japanese, so if we come back and we manage to somehow redeem this Magneton, I might just have to pick up this card instead. So at the end of the day, when the champion says, why did I lose? I never made any mistakes raising my Pokemon. This is the first time in this series that I'm actually going to agree with him. He made 0 mistakes here. We needed all the luck to get through this one. Double Team would have made this one easier. Plain and simple, because we would have just gotten badge boost. But at the end of the day, we did get it to go. It wasn't pretty. Magneton kind of sets the bar as like one of the worst runs that we've done like this, and probably anything worse than Magneton's not finishing the challenge, if I have to guess. Still, we did manage to get through the entire game. Professor Oak's gonna congratulate us on getting to the Hall of Fame. I don't think we deserve it, but hey, that is how it goes sometimes in these challenges. Anyway, I want to give a massive thank you to everybody who watches the videos. Channel members, thank you so much for your continued support. And today, thank you to the sponsor, Arena Club. It was kind of fun just pulling a random Pokemon and then choosing that to be my starter today. So who knows? Maybe we'll have more collabs with them in the future and get to do something similar. We'll just have to see. Of course, if you decide to try Arena Club with my code down below, comment and tell me what you pull or what you decide to buy from the marketplace. I'd honestly just be interested to hear how you guys feel about the sponsor and what you think of their platform. And hopefully you join me in getting in on some Pokemon cards. Anyway, that does it for me. I will see you in the next one. Later.